Welcome to the hottest real estate topics on the planet, keeping you up to date with all the creative ways to buy and sell real estate without bank qualifying, so anyone can build real income starting today. Here is another great show with Dealmaker Bill and Pete the Rookie.
All right, here we are at another episode of Flipping Houses for Rookies.
And we're off. Yay.
We're at podcast number 249, Peter.
Hey,
how are you this morning?
I'm doing really well. Very good. How about you?
I'm good. Got too much going on. Trying to juggle everything, but other than that, it's been okay.
I know. I'm at the tail end of some big stuff that's been taking years, but right at the tail end, it's going to be good.
Nice.
Hey, 250. Wait a minute. 250. We got to do something 250, right?
I'll let you take me out for lunch.
I was thinking better than that. But okay, I'll take lunch.
Hey, maybe what we'll do is we'll just grab our cell phones and we'll go to the coffee shop and we'll just record it at the coffee shop.
Ah, yeah, just like they do on the news.
Emma will love that one.
Clink, clink, dishes, dishes, cups.
All right, episode number 249. Today's podcast is called Multiple Ways to Find Creative Real Estate Deals in an Impossible Market That Nobody's Doing.
Mm-hmm.
That very few are doing, actually.
Oh, yeah.
There are so many people talking all across this great country of the United States saying when you put a house on the market these days, it sells in 10 minutes with multiple offers over asking price.
Mm-hmm.
Which totally means it's a classic seller's market. By definition, sellers have multiple choices, and any little wind blowing the wrong way, the seller says no and moves on.
Yeah.
Leaving many, if not all investors to believe it is impossible to find deals. Never mind the gargantuan ones you used to hear about. Yet, if you are in the right circles, like Flipping Houses for Rookies, you hear about these monster deals happening, possibly even wondering how or what you can easily do to find and do no money, no down payment, no bank qualifying transactions. What if I told you they are right under your nose?
Well, in my case, they'd be a mustache.
In your immediate area. Would you believe me? In this $1 million podcast, I'm going to tell you what to do to find them. And if you are relatively interested in turning real estate into income, you will listen more than once and take lots of notes. Cool.
Sounds good.
Good morning, Francisco. So before we get started, a little bit of housekeeping here. So we recorded this podcast every Thursday morning, 9:15, 9:30-ish a.m. Eastern Standard Time. You are welcome to join us on Flakebook, otherwise known as Facebook, or ZooTube, also known as YouTube. They're my nicknames for these platforms that seem to give me a hassle all the time. They don't want to cooperate with the Bill's Planet methodology, so I've nicknamed them, just like the mob would nickname a guy, with a crooked nose.
Yeah.
Right? So there you go. So if you go on to Facebook or YouTube and just type in Flipping Houses for Rookies, all the podcasts are there. They're recorded, and stored on those platforms, as well as your favorite podcast platform. So if you just have an icon or an app on your phone for a podcast, just go in there and type in Flipping Houses for Rookies. And there we are. All 149 shows after we get done with this one.
249.
Okay? I'm sorry, 249.
249.
Oh my goodness. Thank you, Peter.
It's only 100.
So,
it's only 2 years more. Oh my God.
Yeah. So I would also like to let you know inside the chat box or the description of where you found this podcast is a link to my free stuff. I will forewarn you that by the time we get to episode 250, that link is going to change. It will no longer be there. So make sure you go check it out. I'm going to put a different link in there for some other things that I want to do. So go check it out before I take that link out of the description box. Or you can go to flippinghousesforrookies.com. And there is, there's all our courses are there. The support tickets are there. I answer all the support tickets multiple times a day if I can. Definitely within a 24-hour period. I have no VA or virtual assistant or anything doing that. I do them all myself, especially if they're talking about deal structuring. I get a lot of people that listen to this podcast and actually do what we suggest on here, Peter. And they actually go do deals and they send me support tickets like, Bill, what do I do?
Yeah. It's always surprising. We've had guys call, hey, I bought a couple houses doing what you say. We go, what? You already bought a few? Yeah, but I have some questions now. No kidding. Seriously. Yeah. So people can pull it off. Maybe the gutsier of us, but they're doing it. And
of course, I put up with some of it until it dabbles into some of the coaching, which we do private coaching. We have courses. I have all that kind of stuff. Today's podcast is 1,000% out of what we would do in more depth on the Deal Hunting Monthly Mastery Call. Once a month, I do about a 90-minute to 2-hour call, and I stay longer if we need to, about how to find creative real estate deals. So what happens is we do a Zoom call. And once you leave the Zoom call, I record it, and all of the documents that I use and everything that we talked about is put on a web page, and you have access to that web page to download all my materials, all my scripts, all my paperwork, whatever it is that we're talking about for 30 days. We do that call the first Wednesday of every month. So if you go to flippinghousesforrookies.com, the courses section there, on the top right-hand side, there's a link that says courses. Just go in there, and you'll see it. It's a blue icon, it says Deal Hunting Monthly Mastery, and you could find out about it all the details there. Okay, but just realize that today, what we're covering is right out of that playbook. Okay, I've kind of because it's a podcast, and I'm really working on how long the podcast should be, because this podcast tends to run 95 minutes, all that stuff. Thank you, John. John says, John Ramirez says, it's well worth it. He's talking about the Deal Hunting Monthly Mastery. So actually, Peter, to divert a little bit, and then we'll get right into the podcast. I've actually joined a group.
Wait, you joined a group?
I joined a group. Huh. Hang on. So Rick, God bless you, Rick. Rick is all the way from Australia. He says, the one and the only.
Hey, Rick, what time is it in Australia?
Yeah, it's like 3 days ahead of us, Pete. Don't even try to figure it out.
Wait a minute. It only takes a day. Never mind.
He's working on Memorial Day right now. Anyways, so my point is I joined this group, right, on podcasting, and I bought some tools, some education, and, I'm kind of like... going through that stuff with these people. So yesterday was a live call, and I was like, oh man, I thought these guys were like, big podcast heroes and all that kind of stuff. And I found out that we're not doing bad.
Oh, okay.
We're doing okay. Yeah.
All right.
All right. So let's get today's show started. So Pete, here's how we're going to start off.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a rhetorical question. Okay. Which means I'm asking it, but I already know the answer.
All right. I won't even answer then. I'll just
remember when you were a kid and you were playing hide and seek?
Yes.
You remember that, right?
Yeah.
Where a minimum of 3 players, sometimes 2, but a minimum of 3 players would have one person close their eyes while others would conceal themselves in a set environment. Right? Mm-hmm. Like for me, it was downstairs in the finished basement, when the parents were all upstairs and we were looking to make trouble.
Yeah.
Okay, it was in an enclosed environment.
Yeah.
Then the person who was that had their eyes closed, would yell out, ready or not, here I come. Then attempts to locate the concealed players.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
True.
The player that was found last is the winner.
Mm. Then he's
right?
it. Then he's it.
You remember? Yeah, you remember?
Yeah, pretty dimly, but yeah.
Okay,
It was
good.
a couple of centuries ago.
I was actually gonna write that joke in here, and I decided not to pick on your age.
No, I'll do it myself. That way it's better.
There you go. Here's my question. Did I or did I not just describe today's current real estate market?
That's what I was thinking while you're explaining it. Yup.
Where the real estate entrepreneur is it.
Mm-hmm.
And the sellers conceal their true motivation and intention.
Mm-hmm.
But if you listen to podcast number 248, which is the one right before this one, and that's an absolute must. If you haven't listened to episode 248, in fact, I should make that our first 10 podcasts. It should be our first. That's what everybody should listen to first. It took me 247 shows to figure it out.
Yeah. No, that was really good. It was just so precise. You know, there's all these elements in any field, in our field. And like you do this, you do that. Like when exactly did I do this? And when should I ask this question? And where does that fit in? And he's like, well, you'll know when it should show up. But you found out exactly where everything goes. Yep. I mean, you can do it intuitively. You know, I'm a teacher. I know. Oh, you just do this. But boy, when you really lay it out, and you really laid it out, I was happy. And I'm fussy.
Thank you.
I was happy.
Good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So episode 248 is the easiest way ever invented for rookies to get fast and potential gargantuan profits. And it's the flow of the creative real estate system that we use. Mm-hmm. Like you said, not only the interesting thing about the flow is not the flow itself. I mean, that's interesting within itself. But all these questions I've been talking about for 247 podcasts and all these little, ideas and things to talk about, I show you exactly where to use them.
Yeah.
And how to use them in that flow chart. And it's real simple. Okay. So more importantly, you should have learned in that podcast, if you listened to it, not only the exact systems and flow for doing every creative real estate deal, but, and this is the salient point that I'm sure most did not take from it because they were inundated with all the stuff. What I would like for you to walk away from that show with is that your job as a real estate entrepreneur, okay, I was going to say investor, but as a real estate entrepreneur, the sole job you have, if you want to be successful, that is to find out what sellers need and want and why it's motivating them in this transaction. So the most important job you have as a real estate entrepreneur or a real estate investor is to put your finger on almost immediately what is needed and wanted and what's motivating the person to do the transaction. And I'm not going to get into this because we've done this in other podcasts, but everybody is motivated. Mm-hmm. You just need to figure out what for. Every seller is motivated. And in this show, we talk a lot about prospects and suspects. And it's never really been cleared up. The reason why they're prospects and suspects to us is because maybe a suspect is someone that doesn't align with what we want to do. Mm. They're not a suspect in the real estate market, right? Mm-hmm. They're more like a suspect to us because they're not willing to take monthly payments or do creative financing. Right. And I'm going to clear that up in this show because I have a lot of coaching clients that are saying the same thing. So, we do cash deals. Mm-hmm. So I'm not all about doing no money down and all that kind of stuff. I just talk about it a lot because that's what listeners want to hear. But I'm going to go over that at the end of this show. Matter of fact, if you're thinking about skating out early, I strongly disagree with that because at the end of this show, I'm going to give you a strategy that will blow your wig off, blow you out of your boots. Okay? Cool.
But hang on to your britches, folks.
Jamie says, Good morning. Back to the real estate university. Amen. Thanks, man. All right. So it's so let me just read that again. The sole job, if you want to be successful, of a real estate entrepreneur is to find out what sellers need and want and why this is motivating them to do the transaction. Mm-hmm. Right? It's not what most people ever think. Ever, 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 by the way.
What's motivating
It's
them?
never what you think.
Oh, no.
Never, 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 never what you think. And you could guesstimate it all you want. They could even tell you things. And until you say, so like, if I'm talking to you and you're telling me that, you're selling the house because you and your brother are arguing,
Yeah.
and I give it back to you. So let me see if I get this straight. You're selling this house because you and your brother are arguing. You'll be like, oh no,
No, well, not
No,
really.
not really.
Not really. No.
right. So until you do that, you really don't know what the motivation is, right?
Yeah, and they said it though. Oh, we're arguing. You're like, oh, that's it. No, you're so anxious to find out what it is. You're going to grab the first thing. Go, I know what it is. I know what it is. Calm down. It might not be it. Probably not. What's that book? Sometimes you have to go 7 layers deep to find out what people really want, right? Well, why do you want that? Yeah, okay, but why do you want that? And unless you get the real thing, it doesn't work out so hot.
Rick says, happiness transaction engineer.
Yeah, you said that a couple of podcasts. You want to make the person happy.
Yeah. John says, are you 5 years casting now? Yes, John. Yeah, it seems hard to believe. Over 5 years. All right. So, anyways, I'm ashamed of myself because I had an acronym for PhD. I don't remember what the hell. I told you what it was, but I forgot what it was. I didn't write it down. So,
it's an acronym for something?
Yeah. So it's not what most people think, this motivation. And it's not having a PhD like I do, right? In deal structuring. Magic sentences or even a dump truck load of cash. It's none of that stuff that makes deals. No.
Yep.
It's knowing and seeking the correct congregation for your sermon.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Yep.
So here's what I'm going to do. So does that clear? Knowing and seeking the correct congregation for your sermon. Is that clear? What does that mean to you, Peter? Just so I know,
Well,
I don't have attention on that I'm talking gibberish.
Yeah. It's a little fancy. There's a thing in public relations, maybe in marketing, that there's different publics, different groups of people, housewives, kids, musicians, different types of people. So if you got a product, you got to find out who might want it. You just don't go advertising to the wrong group. Which magazine do which newspaper, where do I put a bill? Just all that stuff to find who should I be talking to so you don't waste your time and money on the wrong crowd.
Right. So let's just be really, really politically incorrect about this.
Oh, why not? Why not?
You're in a Catholic church with the Pope, and he's doing a sermon.
Yeah.
Would the gospel singers come in there and be in that sermon?
Nope.
Yeah, why? Because it's not the crowd that he's talking to.
Yeah.
Right?
Different.
If you're a vegetarian, would you go to McDonald's to buy a hamburger? No. Okay,
No.
so it's a segment of, what group you're talking to.
Yeah.
And the reason why that's the most important, that is absolutely, positively, over the ramparts, the most important thing you can do in real estate. And nobody ever talks about it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like I gave you an example. So asking a free and clear owner, in other words, they don't have a mortgage, if they'd be willing to sell the property for what they owe on it. It's just not the right thing to say to that person. You know what I mean?
But Bill, they don't
have a mortgage.
They don't know anything on it.
Right, exactly. So that's my point. So you wouldn't ask that question. So you're going to speak to certain people certain ways based on their reality or whatever they're going through. You have to be empathetic.
Yeah,
so the most important thing to do to be successful in real estate is not what everybody thinks. Study all the sentences and the magic words for creative real estate, or study all the deal structuring and all the technical aspect of it. Technical aspect of it cannot be taught to you. I'm sorry to tell you that. I don't care if you paid $1 million, it cannot be taught to you. It's almost impossible to be taught to you. What you need to do is you need to get your education through observation. You need to be able to do the transactions, understand the problems you're having, and then go off and get the technical stuff, right? So, like, if I want to learn how to fly an airplane, the best thing I could do on my first day of school is sit in the cockpit and play with all the buttons.
Yep.
Now I have total reality, so when I hit the textbook, I know what I'm looking at because I sat in the cockpit of that airplane.
That's right.
Right? So that's why I badger people in my emails on my email list, which keeps growing and growing. It's amazing how much response I get from that email list lately. And the reason why is because, I had this Be a Reluctant Buyer program. Go out and talk to your seller and study them. Watch how they respond to you. Pay attention to their questions and their concerns, and go out and see, 3 to 5 sellers without even trying to buy the property. Mm-hmm. And study the seller, and then come back into the textbooks and the courses and study them. And you'll have a whole different conceptual understanding of how it's supposed to go, because you get some reality attached to it, right?
Yeah.
That's why I push that whole line. So, but that's not why I'm here today. So here's what I'm going to do today, okay? I'm gonna mock up some different scenarios. Now, obviously, I'm not going to get all of them. I'm just going to take a few of them. Welcome back, Desiree. Missed you. Where have you been?
Desiree, where you been?
Desiree, there's one you sent this week. Thought you sent it directly to me. I did, Desiree. And I hope it wasn't the Fluffpreneur one. She's talking about my emails.
Oh.
I sent out people an email say, "Are you a Fluffpreneur?" And I used the old bad word right in the first sentence. Snowflake.
Titch.
All right. Yeah. So anyways, I can't do that. Well, I just did. So anyways, I'll get badgered for that later. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to mock up different scenarios or conditions that our listeners might be in while trying to find deals, like actual conditions, right? Then I'm going to give them ideas and proven ways they can find deals that match their financial and resources condition that they're in, right? Because all different people are in different situations, and that could be the first barrier, right? Like you and I know, Peter. You and I know, and this is a little bit out of text, but you and I both know that the first barrier to learning is thinking you already know it.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
So to me, the first barrier to entry on real estate is not having the right list and not knowing what you don't know. Right? And
sure.
that's what the biggest barrier is. So I'm going to go through this list like this. So done this way, I think I'll be able to shorten up anybody's runway for grabbing chunks of dough. So they can, and I want to be very overt about this, very open and very, very clear about this. I'm doing this for one reason. So you will spend more money. Hopefully with me.
Excuse me?
Hopefully with me. Yeah, hopefully with me. Okay? Because what my point is that if you can go out and make a few chunks of dough, I would expect you going through those deals will figure out where your weaknesses are and want to get them fixed and end up with one of my courses or in my coaching program or in the Deal Hunting Monthly Mastery program and get more education. But it's not coming from your hard-earned cash. It's coming from, hopefully, from doing a deal. Now, some people can't wait to do a deal, so they jump right in and they spend the money anyways, and they just excel their possibility. But this podcast is going to teach you that you don't know what you don't know, which simply means that there's unexpected obstacles you have no idea that are there. In your imagination, you think you're going to be doing this deal this way, and it's not true because you've never done a deal that way. You've never done a deal and you don't know what to expect.
Yeah.
Okay? So, anyways, let me catch up here. So I would expect you could make a few bucks, get some training, and absolutely at that point do more deals and get to the point where someday you could just fire your boss. Fire the boss. Okay? All right, let's start off with someone having a job. So this is the first mock-up I have. Someone starting, let me back up. Let's start off with someone having a job, a spouse, a husband or a wife, or however you do it, kids, soccer or wrestling games to attend to, because the kids are running around and you got to do all that stuff. And a pushy boss wanting more and more work from them every week. Okay? Now that's some pressure. That's definitely life living them, right? Life is knocking them around like a pinball, right? And I'll take it one step further. There's always too much month for this person, never enough money or time to get this real estate thing off the ground. They know they want to do it. They want the reward of the cash. They want an extra $3,000 a month or $30,000 a month, or they want to be free. They want to fire the boss. They have the end result very clear in their head, but they never seem to get around it. Every week slips through their fingers, and they get to the end of the week, and they're like, damn, I didn't do anything with my real estate. Right? And Christmases go by, and, 4th of Julys go by like they're weeks apart. Right? Holidays, in other words, right?
Yeah.
If you're in the United States. If you're not in the United States, you have your own holidays. Okay? So basically, very few resources, right? There's not a lot of resources when you're in this condition or this position.
Right.
No money, right? Or not enough money, or, very little money, right? A struggle for time. And about 10 million, and I mean that, this is not an exaggeration, 10 million things distracting you. Distracting this want-to-be, and this is not a slang term, want-to-be investor that actually expects to get things done. I mean, like 10 million things, like they're dispersed. They got to do this, got to do that. Wake up in the morning. How many people that I'm talking to right now will wake up in the morning and have a plan of what they want to do, and then get to the end of the day and didn't even take the to-do list out of their pocket. Never mind do it, because they were inundated with everybody else's idea of what they want. I know I'm going through that right now. Matter of fact, I need to rearrange. I'm dealing with toilets, and which never happens. I put a new tenant in a house. I had to replace a toilet. I have a closing I'm doing. I got to replace a hot water heater. And I got all these things that every day seem to keep popping up. My insurance wasn't paid because somehow, some way, the account information in the portal that I had disappeared. So they're telling me they're going to cancel my insurance. Just all that kind of stuff that was not on my data plan. And unfortunately for me, usually I used to have Emma to be able to handle all that, but I stopped doing. I started doing all that stuff myself, mostly because I've had it under control for such a long time. But every so often, like this week, it all comes at once. So I just deal with it, and I just work a little bit longer. You know what I mean? But most people have trouble dealing with that.
Yeah, you know what the annoying part of all that is? Those are things you have to do it, but they're not more important than what you're trying to do. But you got to do it. It's there. You can't just ignore the insurance.
Well, they don't make you money. They're not generating income.
That's right. It's just the things you have to do to keep up with what's going on now instead of getting it. I call that like step 0. That's just to stay even, but it's not like 1, 2, 3 pulling yourself ahead. So lead on, fearless leader. Lead on.
All right. Here's what we do when you're in this situation that I just spoke about, or something very similar to it, right? Here's what you do. So one, excuse me, understand because you don't have time or money, you have to find deals that can happen quickly.
Yeah.
That don't require repairs or hunting down lenders. That takes time. Right? Just nice and simple deals that could throw you a rope while you're sinking in the quicksand. Seriously, that's how it is, right?
Yeah.
So here are those types of deals that you should do, or more importantly, you should look for. So that's what the important thing is that you need to figure out that this is your situation, and these are the type of deals you want to do or should do. So now you need to go find out where's that congregation that you can speak to.
Yeah.
Or do your sermon with. right? So these type of deals are the slot deal, which is a sandwich lease option transfer, right? And if this is your first time listening to a podcast with me, go to flippinghousesforrookies.com. Right on the front page, there's a course there called, Creative Real Estate 101, and it will explain all these deals that I'm talking about. It does all the math. It shows you how to structure them, what the results are, how to make money with them. That course used to be a few $100s. Now it's free. So just go there and study that. You could do it in an afternoon. Okay. So I'm not going to explain these type of deals. I'm just telling you what to do here. Okay. So you want to look for slot deals, which is a sandwich lease option transfer, which means you find a seller willing to lease with an option to purchase, and you find a buyer that's willing to lease with an option to purchase, and you put them together and you make money. Right?
Right.
The other type of deal you could do is an option, which, by the way, I'm going to cover this at the end of the podcast, is a great way to do deals right now, and we don't do enough of it.
Yeah.
And I'm going to explain that. Option deals are the hottest things to do right now, especially if you have no money and no time.
It's funny. I always wondered when that would fit in because you've been talking about that for years, but it was just not the right time for that. And it was like, yeah, we don't do that right now. It's like, okay, fine. But I can totally see, like, right now, boy, if you can do that right now, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. And then the third thing you could do is rent to own, which is very much like a slot deal, except this deal, the slot deal, you just match make, you get your fee and you leave. With a rent to own, you do the same type of work as a slot deal, except now you're going to stay in the deal because you got 15% worth of equity and you got 20 or 25% worth of cash flow. Okay?
Yep, a little more meat on the deal.
Those are the three types of deals you should look for. You will find other deals. Here is the secret, folks. Here is the secret. Hear me loud and clear right now. I went over this in podcast number 248. You're going to find other deals. Do not let those other deals distract you. You don't throw those deals away. You decide that where you are and what condition you're in right now that's not best for you because you don't have the resources or the time, and you'll go off and dilly-dally with that deal that you don't know how to do or will try to figure out how to do, and you won't get anything done. You won't make any money. You'll work and work and work and work and work and no result. Sometimes months on that one deal, and stop looking for the right deal for you. So what you do is you write these contracts. So if you find another deal, like a rehab deal, then write a purchase and sales contract and go assign it to someone and just make a few bucks for doing it. $1,000, $2,000, $5,000. If you stumble across those deals. Don't try to complete the deals if you're in this situation. You're going to soccer games and you got to cook dinner and you got to go to the grocery store and you're a soccer mom or you're a dad that's got 3 jobs. Don't fight the system. Don't try to fight your habits. Just do the deals that you know you can do, and the quick deals that don't take a lot of time and a lot of money are a slot deal, an option deal, or a rent-to-own deal. Those don't take a lot of time. Usually within 30 days, you can conjure up anywhere from $3,000 to $20,000. Does this make sense, Peter?
Yeah, it just dawned on me. The time you spend on these, quote, smaller deals would probably yield you the same kind of money per time spent as the big fat looking deals that you might be looking for that take a much longer time, but you're still making maybe the same per effort and time put out.
Exactly.
And you might not get
we do a renovation and it takes us 6 months and we make 30 or 35 grand, but how many hours did we have in it?
It's 6 months worth of a lot. And when you're so busy, you can't do the other ones sometimes because you really can get wrapped up in them. But the thing that you're really making the point of is you don't have contractors. You don't have the private money guys. You don't know how to do it. You're going to spend too much. You're going to do it wrong. You're going to do it the way you would like to see the house done and not make any money in the end.
And
so why
all that's
go through all that?
You can do all of that once you get more time and you've done a couple of these deals and made $3,000 and went and bought a course for $1,000 or whatever and learned more so you can elevate, right? So it's kind of like a ladder is too good of an analogy, right? You got to go clean the roof you got to go clean the leaves in the gutter on the roof, right? Mm-hmm. So are you going to try to take all your tools up one time on the ladder?
No.
Or you're going to go a few times up and down the ladder,
Yeah.
carrying what you feel like you can carry. Right? That's what this is like. It's like you're gonna do the deals a few times and go through the process and learn what you can learn. And the first 5 deals you're doing, you shouldn't give a living crap about how much money you're going to make. It should be more like, this is my university. This is my education.
It's your apprenticeship.
This is my apprenticeship. Exactly right. Exactly right.
Apprenticeship.
And if you make money, hooray. But if you do those 3 or 5 deals, you're set for life. Because you could turn that on or off anytime you want. You want a new car? Go on. I just did it. I wanted to buy a truck, and I went and did a deal, and I made $16,000 and bought a truck.
Did you get one?
No, well, I had it already.
Okay.
My truck. I paid it off.
Yeah, the one you got. Yeah.
Yeah, right?
Okay.
So you understand what I'm saying? You want to go on vacation to Hawaii and you're with your family next year, then go do a transaction to make 10 grand. You know how to do it. You don't have to go reinvent the wheel. All right. So we're way off topic. So here's the trick. Don't look for a house for sale when you're looking for a slot deal, an option deal, or a rent-to-own deal in this particular scenario that we're talking about. We'll call it the soccer mom, right?
Yeah.
And no disrespect to anybody. It's just it's easy to understand that way, right?
Yeah, no, they're
In other
busy
words,
doing important things.
Yeah, they got life to worry about, right? So here's the trick. You don't go looking for a house for sale. There's the first lesson. That's not the right sermon for you to preach in this congregation. Because what do people want when they have a house for sale?
They want cash.
They want the money.
They want cash.
Do you have the money? No. Do they want a discount? Not in today's market. They don't want a discount? No. They want over asking price. I saw a survey recently that people put a house on the market right now and they're expecting to get 20 grand over asking price.
Yeah, I saw a 19% increase in house prices where we are right now. 19. Boom.
So here's what you're going to do. You're going to instead search for the rental sections. You're going to look for rental sections, right? So here's what you're going to want to do. You're going to want to get on Flakebook, or as I call it, Zillow. So you want to get on Facebook and Zillow and go under the rental sections of those platforms and start searching for rental properties, right? These folks are already of the mindset of getting monthly payments. They're already thinking with that, so you don't have to convert them. You don't need a PhD in deal structuring to convince them, no, don't take $200,000, take my $1,500 a month, and it's better for you.
Yeah.
You don't have to do that. No, they're already collecting $1,500 a month. They probably already have a tenant in there, or they have some experience with it, and what you're going to promise them is to remove the landlord obligations. And at the end of 2 years, buy it. They don't have renters offering them that. The renters they're talking to are saying, I want to be a landlord. I want you to be a landlord, fix the toilet when it's broke, and oh yeah, by the way, I'm going to stay as long as I want, and when I leave, I'm just going to give you a month's notice, and to hell with you, and I'm going to go on with my life. There's no end game for them. There's no finality for them. Now you come along and say, wait a minute, how about if I collect that $1,500, right? You still get your payments, but now you don't have to be a landlord, right? And I'll buy it at the end of 2 years, right? And what are you going to do? You're going to assign all that to your buyer. So your buyer is going to do the land. So you're not doing any landlord. You're not going to be the landlord. You're going to assign it all to your buyer, and your buyer is going to be responsible for fixing all the toilets and smoke detectors and cutting the grass and plowing the snow, and you're going to assign all that. But your renter doesn't know how to do that, so you're going to bring that to the table, right? So they're already ready. This is the congregation that you want to preach your sermon to. They're going to get it. They're already thinking this way. You're in the conversation in their head already, and you bring tremendous value to the table because you're going to say you don't have to be a landlord, and there's finality here because in 2 years we're going to buy it out for the price we set today. that's a benefit. It's a whole different angle than trying to take a for sale by owner or a person that has a house for sale that's expecting $200,000 and saying, nah, I'm just going to give you $1,500 a month.
Make payments.
Yeah.
Make payments.
Right?
Hey, can I buy this on pay? Well, you're giving the guy an exit strategy.
Yeah. Yep.
Hey, question that I think other people might be thinking, because I caught it. If there's already a renter in there, what do you do with the renter that's in there? I mean, they might want to buy it and turn into the buyer, but what do you do if they're there for another few months?
That's a good question. So what I do is if there's a renter in there, I wouldn't do a slot deal. Slot deals are only done on vacant properties where you can put a new owner occupant in there. Mm-hmm. What I would do is I would tell the owner, if you want, I can do this deal, but you need to give me 15% worth of equity and 20 or 25% worth of cash flow, and the tenant can stay right there. Mm-hmm. As long as you're making that money, it's good for you. You don't have to spend the money to go try to find that. And when the renter, when you tell the owner, the seller, I will, and this is important, you should write these words down because they're crucial. It took me a bunch of years to figure this out, and it doesn't sound that way when I say it. It sounds like I just made it up like this morning.
Well, it should sound like that.
Yeah, exactly.
It shouldn't sound like some slick line.
I will fulfill your obligations with your tenant all the way. I will fulfill your obligations with your tenant all the way. So if you made a year lease and this is the second month, I will fulfill that obligation all the way, and I will do everything you promised them to do. Mm-hmm. You need to give it to me in writing so so that there's not anything made up. Yeah. But I will do that. And I always tell them, but realize now instead of getting the house sold in 2 years, it might take 3 years because I got to wait the first year with your tenant. Right.
Yeah, you add that.
And they're totally fine with that.
You add that.
Yeah, just add it to the term.
Yeah, well, they're ready to sit there for years probably, and whatever happened that they wound up with the property where they wanted it or not. Everybody eventually wants to sell. They get old, they get tired, whatever that is.
So you don't need a PhD in deal making. Anybody could do this. In fact, the only thing you need is just pure human skills, Peter.
Oh,
no math skills, no calculators, just pure human skills.
Human skills. Now you're asking too much, Mr. Hawthorne. Human skills.
Decent communication abilities and lots of passion to help.
Oh, okay.
That's all you need.
That's all right.
Right? Basically, you're a matchmaker. Okay? You're putting together sellers and buyers that need a little instruction or need a little bit of help. Right? When you're messaging these sellers on Facebook or in Zillow, here's what you're going to say. Okay? When you're selling, I'm sorry, I did that wrong. When you're talking to sellers, is what I meant to say, you're going to text this. This is when you're buying, right? Would you consider renting for a few years and then sell it to me? So you're going to go on Facebook. You're going to go on YouTube. I'm sorry, not YouTube. Facebook. I got to get my head together here.
Facebook,
so
and Zillow.
Facebook and Zillow. Thank you. In the rental section. And you're going to message these people or text these people. Would you consider renting for a few years and then sell it to me? Sometimes we say, would you consider renting for a year or two and then sell it to me? Sometimes we say, would you consider renting for a few years and then sell it to me? That wouldn't work for you, would it? They're all the same question.
Yeah. But I like the last part you threw in. We picked that up a while back. That wouldn't interest you, would it? Or you wouldn't do that, would you? The reluctant part, like, it's great.
It's a double negative, but it works.
Like, you wouldn't go out with me, would you?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It's a litmus test. Now, here's the magic. Now, this is the magic, and I kid you not, I am not talking out my ass right now. I am talking from pure 100% experience between all my support tickets. Again, I've talked in the past. I tend to talk to somewhere between 7,000 and 9,000 people a week. Not all one-on-one, some on the podcast, in my email, in my support tickets, in my private coaching groups, all that stuff. So I get, and I'm not being a hotshot, I don't think that's enough people, by the way, but I get a lot of different ideas and I get a lot of opinions, some unsolicited, I get a lot of information, and it's probably more than the average person, but there are people that get much more information than I do. I'm just telling you where I'm at and why I make these statements, okay?
Yeah.
So I totally lost my train of thought. Oh, I know what it is. You do this for 15 minutes a day, and it's almost impossible to go a week without having a conversation with somebody. Now, realize on Facebook Marketplace, which is where you should be doing this, the address and their phone number and contact information isn't going to be there. Just be a human being and say, I'm interested. I would like to talk to you. Give me your phone number. Don't try to be slick. Don't try to be a salesman. Just be interested. Use pure empathy. Go back and listen to episode 248. This will make total sense exactly what I'm talking about. Okay? So that's looking for sellers. So you're looking for sellers. You would message them or text them. Would you consider renting for a few years and then sell it to me? Type of a phrase. When you're selling the property and you're looking for buyers, okay, all you have to do is put a picture of the house there and say, house for sale, no bank qualifying. And believe me, you will get flooded with information, with people.
Yeah.
House for sale, no bank qualifying. House for sale, owner financing. Is this an owner finance house? Yeah. Your seller is giving you owner financing with an option. They're letting you pay for it monthly until you can pay it off. Now, do they own it free and clear? No, they're just collecting rent from you. It is a owner finance type of transaction. So you can say house for sale, owner financing. You know what makes owner financing so glorified and so special? Is you, the real estate entrepreneur, once you have the house under contract, makes the decisions, not somebody else. Not the bank, not the realtor, not the seller. Nobody makes that decision except you. So you make the decisions on who's going to rent and who's not going to rent. That's the glory.
You know what I like about that? I spotted something in my own personal life. I'm sure all of us go through this, that you're not just doing what you want in your life. You have to answer to the bank. You might have to answer to the boss or other people. Yep. And anytime you have money, it's like, gee, who wants this? The IRS wants it, the bank with it. It's like, damn it, can we just leave me alone? Can we just live our lives ourselves? And when you come and buy and selling houses, you think you have to ask the bank for permission, the lawyer for permission, the state for permission, everybody for permission. In these situations, it's just between you and a seller and a buyer. And you could do whatever you can imagine if they agree to it. You don't need anybody's permission. We don't break the law, but you don't need people's permission. Just this person needs something, you help them. That person needs something, you help them. And you're the guy orchestrating it. Isn't that the greatest thing ever? With no permission for anybody. The realtor, the broker, the lawyer, the thing. Oh my God.
I'll have you know the position of not having money is much simpler than having money. And the people that don't have it are very lucky. I kid you not. My daddy taught me at a very young age. He said, he taught me that having money is harder than not having money. And it was years later before I realized that. Just think of it this way, without getting off on a whole nother podcast here, but the elitist of this world. The elitist. What does an elitist mean?
Well, they're special. There's only a few of them. They're on top of the pile. They think they're God's
upper
good.
Class.
The what?
And they think they're God. They're upper class and they think they're God because they have money.
They're sitting on Mount Olympus.
Here's how to be an elitist. There's only one rule to being an elitist. Protect the money. No liabilities. Don't get involved if there's a repercussion to the money. That's how they go generations, because they have all this wealth and they figure out how to not have liability.
Yeah.
That's how they do it. So that's how you should think. You don't have to have all the money, but you can still think like that. Just don't have all the liability. Don't set yourself up for risk. And you won't have it. Like we always say, how do you not lose money in real estate? Just don't put any in. You won't lose anything.
It's like a vaudeville joke. Boom, boom.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So what you're going to do when you do this is you're going to get an option agreement, and you can go. You don't have to buy my forms. I would prefer you do. My forms are better than what you're going to find out there. But for your first couple of transactions, you could just go get a free one, a free option agreement. Go to eforms.com. E, like in Edward, forms.com. Or type into Google option agreement and your city and state. And it'll give you a local one. But 99% of the time, eForms comes up, right? So you get an option agreement for your local area. Now again, those are not the option agreements I use. Mine are much tighter. They're much better. Mine are 2 pages long. And eventually, when you get some dough and do a couple of these deals, you can get those and get better at it and protect yourself more, right? But for right now, you could just use these because you're just going to go in and out, boom, boom. And you could do a handful of these with a free form and totally get away with it, right?
Yep.
Once you get that form and fill it out based on your verbal agreement with the seller, you have them sign it based on what you guys spoke about. So you're taking your spoken word and putting it into written word so everybody understands it and it's clear. Mm-hmm. And then once they sign it, you go find your buyer and you assign that contract to your buyer for a fee of $3,000, $5,000, $10,000, whatever it is you could do, right? As a fee. Now, pay attention to this magic here. Because the option agreement is actually or automatically allowing you to be an equity partner by just sheer words on the document and the way an option agreement works by our United States law, you don't need a license to get the fee. Because when you sign this option agreement, your seller is saying, I'm giving them a minute equity share. And because you become an equity partner, that means you're part owner of the property, and you can go sell it as if it was your property.
And how much do we have to put in? How much do we have to put in for that?
Any paper denomination, which means no less than $1. I use 100, but no less than $1. It has to be paper denomination, and it's called consideration deposit.
No, wait a minute. Literally, it has to be paper. You couldn't give them like $2 in
25.
quarters. Does it have to?
No. Yeah.
That's funny. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And because the option agreement is done the way we said, you don't need to charge fees. So you don't need a license or any of that stuff. Okay. So does all of that make sense?
Sure.
All of that makes sense. So that's a real easy way if you're a soccer mom, as we're calling it, or whatever. I don't even know what to call it.
Well, part-timer. You're a part-timer. Yeah. That's what we are when we start.
Not even up to being part-time. You're not even up to being part-time. You're just trying to get started. Mm-hmm. It's not even up to being part-time. You got a couple hours a week. Mm-hmm. And honestly, the magic is getting on Facebook or getting on Zillow and sending those texts out 15 minutes a day. And I promise you, I've never seen anybody go more than 2 weeks, but usually a week. And they end up in a conversation and they end up sending me support tickets. Like, what do I do? All you do is when you just go to the house, and I'm going to do this soon. I'm going to actually, I think we're going to do it as a podcast, but I got to figure a few things out. Like, what do you do when you're being a reluctant buyer? What do you go to the house and do when you're being a reluctant buyer? And I'm going to make like a checklist. Okay. So basically it's very simple. Go there and look at the property as if you were going to live in it. Just go there as if you were going to buy it. Because if you'll like it, somebody else will like it. And don't try to buy it from the seller. And you tell the seller, look, I'm new at this. I'm here to look. And all you need to do, the only thing you need to do when you're in the house is ask them what would have to happen for me to buy your house. And then write down verbatim, which means exactly what they say on a piece of paper. And you send that to me on a support ticket, or you go get help somewhere else, or whatever you're going to do. But that now they're telling you what to do to help them, what kind of help they really want. Now all you have to do is put on your customer service hat, just like we talked about in episode number 248, and just do your next step. And if you want to know what your next step is, go to episode 248 because all the steps are there. So just find out what step you're on and then follow the sequence. Mm-hmm. I mean, about the only thing I could do to make it easier now, Pete, is do deals for everybody and not charge them commission. But that's about the only thing that I can do that's easier than what I've already done.
Yeah. Okay? It's like paint by numbers.
Yeah. All right, so now let's go on to another scenario. Okay? The first scenario we spent so much time on because I think that's the most common one. Mm-hmm. All right? So now let's go on to a different scenario. You have a little bit more time and skill. You're not a beginner.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Maybe some sales skills, right? Mm-hmm. Or maybe pretty good at some sort of negotiating, or you feel like you're that way. Mm. Okay? You could do exactly as I talked about in the beginning, or the whole beginning of this podcast, about a slot deal, except you could negotiate or do a better job of negotiating the 15% discount so you can make 15% on the deal. Mm-hmm. By asking price, from the asking price, right? So, see, a slot deal, there isn't any negotiating. A lot of people miss that. A slot deal, there's no negotiating. That's why it's the easiest deal to do. You just give them what they want and add your option consideration fee on the top, right? So if they're asking $100,000 or they owe $100,000, you give them the $100,000. If their monthly mortgage payments, we'll say $800 a month, you say, I'll pay $800 a month. So here's what happens. If I were to sell you my computer today for $1,000 and you paid me $1,000 in cash, that means you paid $1,000 for my computer. If you took that same transaction and you paid me with a credit card $1,000 and then paid for it over the course of 24 months, you'd be paying more than $1,000. Right? That's what we're doing in this transaction. The guy that's giving us his credit card or needs to make payments because he doesn't have the $1,000 in cash, no, he's going to pay more. It's just the American way. We didn't make this up. It's just how it works. So you're doing that for your buyer. You're going to go to your buyer and say, okay, this $100,000 house, you have to pay $105,000, and you got to give me a $5,000 deposit, and you keep the $5,000 deposit, because if you sell the house for $105,000 and you keep the $5,000, he still owes $100,000, which is what you owe your seller, right?
Yeah.
All you're doing is getting paid to do the paperwork. So you bought the option agreement from your buyer, from your seller. I don't know why I keep confusing that. You bought the option agreement from your seller, we'll say for $100 or $1 or $10, and you sold it to your buyer for $5,000. That's all you did. You didn't buy and sell a house. You didn't have to renovate. You didn't have to have a closing. You didn't do anything. You bought and sold a piece of paper called an option agreement. This is why it works and doesn't take a lot of time, because you're just buying and selling pieces of paper that are called option agreements. Right? Now, you're going to have to write the lease agreement, which do the same thing. Go to eForms and get a lease. You know, they're not going to be very good. They're definitely not going to be like mine. Mine cost me, I think my lease cost me $4,000 when I first bought it. $3,500 or something like that.
Yeah, well,
I've since bought 2 more.
But you're having your attorneys go over these, aren't you, to make it what you want in the wording?
Yeah, then I have my attorneys adjust them. Yeah, so I've got 2 or 3 of them that we use right now because we keep sponsoring them around. But anyways, my point is just to do a couple deals, all you're doing is buying and selling the piece of paper. It's not that hard, right?
Right, but the service you're providing is the buyer is not in a position to buy a house, and he's planning on renting again and again and again. And when he finds he can rent this house and then buy it down the road in a couple of years and not move again, settle down, say, this is my house. It's like, to him, it's like, I don't know, layaway plan kind of, rent to own.
Well, let me ask you this question.
Yeah.
When you're at a party and you're talking to somebody and it comes up, you say, Peter, do you own your house?
Yeah. And you say yes.
Okay, so let's just role play. Do you own your house?
Yeah.
Oh, good. How long have you owned it for?
12 years.
Good. And where is it? Right? See what I'm saying? I don't say to you, Peter, do you have a loan on your house?
Yeah.
Right?
That's right.
I don't ask that question. I don't say, do you have a loan on your house?
What?
So
hey, how much do you owe? How much do you owe in your house? How much? How much do you owe?
When your buyer's doing a rent to own with you, what are they going to say? Yeah, I own the house. They're not going to say, oh, I did a rent to own.
Yeah.
Unless they're happy about it and they're bragging about it.
Yeah. But either way, they're in there.
People don't ask that. You say, I'm the owner of the house.
Right. So my point is, you're helping those people get into a house that they didn't think they could do, that they'd be renting and renting and renting and wasting that money for years and maybe forever. So that's why you deserve that fee. You opened a door for them that they didn't know existed. And you know the look on people's faces and what they say, but I've seen it like, wait a minute, I can rent this house and then buy it? Honey,
exactly.
Sweetheart, come here, listen, you're not going to believe this. I've seen it, right? Yeah. So it's worth a few $1,000s and them waiting a little bit, but then they get in there, you know?
So Desiree's asking, what about when they say, well, how are you making your money on this? I tell them right up front. I tell everybody in the transaction exactly where I'm making my money and how much. You want to know why? Think about this. In a slot deal, you're writing an option agreement. You're assigning that option agreement to your buyer. What does that mean? They're actually receiving the original document you wrote with your seller. They're going to see the whole thing when you assign it to them.
Yeah.
So you can't lie about it.
Yeah.
Now, when I do lease options or rent to owns, I don't do that. I have one lease option agreement with my seller and I have another one with my buyer, because there's a difference of 15% in equity and 20 or 25% in cash flow, and people get a little bit funny about that kind of stuff. I tell them that I'm the landlord and I'm making money, but I don't tell them how much.
Yeah, and even when it closes down the road, they still don't see the other paperwork and what happened in the first place?
Nope.
Okay. Yeah.
So,
but, by the way, you have a line, Desiree, just in case you're wondering, what if they say, gee, I don't want to pay extra?
yeah, I just say, okay, so that means we can. How much do you want to pay? I want to pay $185,000. Okay, good. So we can close within 30 days. And they'll be like, no. Okay, well the price is $200 then.
Duh. Yeah. I mean, you have to pay for your situation. You know, you're in a situation, you got to pay. If you got the money and you can push people around, and I got cash, I want a discount, go ahead. Otherwise, the rest of us do what we do. You know.
All right, good. So this second scenario, what happened is it's kind of like the first scenario, except you have some sales skills, you got some other, it's not even real estate skills, negotiating. You just have some sales skills and some negotiating skills. So what you're going to do is you're going to talk to them about getting a 15% discount, right, and a 20 or 25% positive cash flow monthly, right? So you're still doing a sandwich lease option like in the slot deal. Except you're not assigning the option, you're writing another lease. So you're going to sublease it once you get it leased. See, in a slot deal, you assign the lease. I mean, you assign the option, and you get your fee, you walk away.
Yeah.
With a rent-to-own, you're going to lease it from the seller and then sublease it to your buyer for a profit. Okay, and that profit should be around 15% worth of equity and 20 or 25% of cash flow. That is also called a sandwich lease option. That means that you're in the middle of two leases. You've got a seller's lease and a buyer's lease. You're in the middle, of, AKA called the sandwich.
Yeah.
Okay? Sweet, right?
Yeah.
So these don't take long, these deals. All you need to do is get on either Facebook or Zillow, and then I'm going to cover a couple more. We need to keep moving here because we're way into the podcast, but I got a couple more really cool ideas that I don't even think you know about, Peter.
That's why I come every Thursday, Bill. What do you got?
Right. So let's swing the pendulum entirely the other way, because we might have podcast listeners that are not in this situation where they don't have capital and they don't have time. Yeah. So let's just swing the pendulum the other way, and let's say you have some resources and you want to buy ugly houses.
Yeah.
Okay, there are people out there that actually want to buy ugly houses. Now, I understand that the best thing I could do for those people is probably send one of my guys in there and check the water in their house, because they're being chemically induced to want to do ugly houses. Okay, there's something wrong with them, right? Usually I hear things like, "Well, I like the creativity." You used to tell me this. I like the creativity of like fixing the house up, and I like the fact that I can change the neighborhood, and all that's cool. AKA that means I don't know how to do pretty deals. I'm not a good negotiator, and I'm not good at all these other things. And it's the only thing I know how to do, because flipping ugly houses is taught on national TV, although not normally done correctly, because they lie about the numbers, because there's a lot of numbers they forget to put in there, mostly closing costs and holding costs. But the rest of it, you can get a good idea because you can watch all the TV shows and get a good idea of it. So let's just say you're that person, even though I've just bashed you, and I was being passive-aggressive to you right now. I'm telling you that's not the only way to make money in real estate. But if you don't believe me, that's totally fine. Here's what you would do. See, the houses in a slot deal and lease option or option are often pretty houses.
Right.
You don't have to do repairs, right? They're often in nice neighborhoods, and they don't need renovation work.
Yeah, because somebody has to live in it, so it has to be decent.
Right. So you cut that whole section of the business right out of the equation, which means less time and more money for you, because you don't have to do all that because you're too busy going to the soccer games and the basketball games and the hockey games or whatever else. You're going to church, you're going to whatever's in your life, right? Whatever it may be. You have to take care of an elderly parent, or you have an autistic kid, or you have somebody in the hospital, or God knows what it is. I mean, I've heard so many different reasons, and they're all legitimate. So if you have all that stuff going on, then cut all of that right out of the deal. Don't worry about doing ugly houses and doing contractors and finding money. It just takes a lot out of those deals. And like you said earlier, if you get good at doing the slot deals, the option deals, or the rent-to-own deals, you could do as many you could do as many, if not more, deals to exceed that renovation money, that 30 grand, we'll say, just by doing more deals, because they don't take long to do.
Yep.
Okay? So let's go back to the ugly house. So how do we find these ugly houses? And I want you to know that I struggled with this, Peter, because I had at least 3 or 4 different ways that are exceptional. And I just chose one of them because of time on this podcast. This is exactly what we do on the Deal Hunting Monthly Mastery. I'm not trying to provoke you or trick you to go do that course, but if you want more details on this kind of stuff, that's where I do it. I can't do it on a podcast because it takes too much time. Okay? And every month we do a different strategy, so it takes several months to get all the strategies. You can't do it all in one sitting. Right? You didn't get your driver's license and learn how to drive in 90 minutes, did you? No, it took some time. Yeah, exactly. So this is going to take some time too, right? So here's one of your $1 million tips. I put here's your $1 million tip, but it's one of them. And where no one is going to tell you this or teach this to you, unless you're in some sort of a private circle like Flipping Houses for Rookies.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be very overt because I'm going to tell you what to do here. I'm not going to tell you how to do it because I don't have time. So I'm being honest up front. I'm telling you, I'm just planting the seed, and just so you know that it's not the way everybody says it is, that you can't find property. That's bullshit. You're just in the wrong pew, in the wrong congregation, listening to the wrong sermon. That's all it is. Okay? So here we go. Dip into the probate market. And here's what you do. Ready? I'm going to give you a list of 7 things. And by far, this is not the entire way to do this. Because of time, I want you to understand, I actually have 3 checklists that I made. And this is one of the 3. And this is the simplest one. The other 2 are even better than this.
Wow.
Okay?
That's cool. I thought you were going to say probate. I was just guessing.
Make a list of some family members, relatives, or work associates that you know and can call. Number 2, call them and ask them if they have an attorney that they know or use. Number 3, ask them if they're willing to make an appointment with that attorney and you together so they can introduce that attorney to you. Number 4, the 3 of you meet, your friend, relative, or coworker, and the attorney. So there's 3 of you, that person, you, and the attorney. Now you're getting a formal introduction because the attorney is not going to say no to his other client, right? And it's not a cold call. You have his undivided attention for 20 minutes or half an hour. Right? You ask this attorney, and in my checklist, which I'm not going to, the only way to get it is in the Deal Hunting Monthly Mastery because I'm not going to recreate it to give it away and all that. I'm just not going to do it because I'm too busy and I just don't want to do it. But I actually have a list of about 12 questions you ask when you're sitting in front of an attorney. One of the questions is, do you do estate planning or probate work? That's the key question. If he says yes or she says yes, ask if they have a case that needs to sell a house right now. And would they be willing to have you go out and look at the house and give them an offer? Now pay attention to me, Peter. I'm going to tell you a quick story, which was not part of my thing today, but I'm going to tell you how I figured this out.
Sure.
My godfather, the guy that raised me, okay, I had a real father and lived with him, but this guy was like a neighbor and I became friends, and he was the guy that raised me. God bless his soul, because I would not be the person I am without him.
Yeah.
I would not be who I am today without him. I absolutely, positively, completely adored, respected, and admired him. And this is how I learned you don't put somebody on a pedestal. because I put him on a pedestal all my life. Okay? So, because when you put somebody on a pedestal, what do? They look down on you, right? Okay. So this person indoctrinated me. I mean, it's amazing what he did. He taught me about money. He taught me about sex, how to fix cars, how to do electrical work, how to do plumbing. He taught me how to talk to girls. How to respect my parents. I mean, he just was amazing. He was 100% Sioux Indian. And that was my background. My background is from a Native American Indian. That's where my morals and my ethics and all that comes from. From that.
That's some really good stuff too. That's beautiful, beautiful spiritual approach to life.
Totally. He was amazing. I can't even, we go hunting and he would tell me how to read, how to use a compass without using a compass by reading the moss and the light and the leaves and I think back about it. To me, it was just being a kid, but it was absolutely, it gives me goosebumps to think about it. Exhilarating.
You don't get that nowadays.
Anyways, he ends up with Alzheimer's. Now he had money. Fortunately, we were able to pay for it. So I'm not a family member. I'm just the neighbor kid. But I'm like his kid he never had, right? He had 2 children. One died. His wife died, both of cancer, right? So I end up running his estate. So one day I'm sitting in a room, in someone's living room, and with the lawyer and the granddaughter of my godfather, right? And just whimsically, because I was bored and we were like waiting for somebody to call us back or something, I said to the attorney, "Hey, you do a lot of probate stuff?" He goes, "That's all I do." And I struck up a conversation with him and told him that I buy houses. So here's what I figured out, because I had befriended him before I did business with him. What I found out which by the way, he had a house for me to go look at the next day, and a week later I bought the house.
Wow. I
bought that year, I think, three or four houses from him, which is how I made a lot of my money back in the day when I was working for Management Success as a salesman, right? Mm-hmm. I was having my daughter do work for me because I was getting these leads from this probate attorney, which I don't know why I ever shut it, because he went away and I never realized that I shut this machine off. It had never occurred to me until just recently when I started teaching it. It's like, why am I not doing that? It's like, all you need is a few attorneys to give you deals and you have a whole pipeline. You don't need marketing. You don't need nothing. You need a few attorneys to befriend you that are probate attorneys that get these deals. Because here's what he taught me in the point of my story. Mm-hmm. He felt it a privilege to know me because when he was talking to his clients and trying to close them on doing probate work for them, he would say, "I have a guy that buys the houses for me in my back pocket and we could probably do this probate deal quickly."
Jeez, that's so weird. You think he's doing you a favor, but it turns out he needs people to buy it. And that's a great thing to be able to say to somebody. I didn't think of that. Like they're trying to decide, should we get this lawyer to help us or not? He goes, "Oh, yeah, I got a guy." "Oh, okay. We'll go with you then." But that's crazy.
Exactly.
We go around with our hat in our hands,
These relationships, you only need, 2 or 3 or 4 attorneys, right? I mean, look at our friend Jeff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right?
The one that begins with M, Mr. Jeff M. Yeah.
Yeah, right?
What does he do?
His entire business, he runs a multi-million-dollar business. He started his business out by lifting houses up and putting foundations under them, and then started moving houses.
Yeah.
That turned into regular construction. Do you realize that business is a multi-million-dollar business, and you want to know why?
Yeah.
He had, I think, 3 or 4 attorneys in the Fairfield area that would give him jobs for people that own $10 million houses and need $150,000 worth of maintenance work done, and he would send his guys out and go do it. And his entire business, his entire wealth, was off of the backs of a handful of attorneys.
Crazy.
Because they were connected to the right people.
Just goes to show you.
So why are you on the MLS? Why are you doing all this other stuff? Why aren't you doing something like this? Why don't you just get the shortcut? This is kind of like I don't even know. I mean, you're walking through the woods and everybody takes this path, but you cut through and save like a half a mile worth of walking.
I think it's worse than that. It's just the easy way. I had a friend of mine I was talking to, a friend of mine who does painting, and he goes, I was thinking of getting into real estate, so I'm going to call my broker.
Right.
You just do what everybody says. It's really, honestly, it's just taking the easy way out. Not doing your research, finding out how people really do it. You're not buying a house for you to live in. This is as an entrepreneur, as an investor, as a professional home buyer. It's a different scenario. Why don't you buy books, look at our podcast, find out how to do it. Don't just take the easy way. And you know what? The easy way, you pay a lot. There's not much money left over. You pay the broker, you pay the bidder, you pay everybody else. There's nothing left.
And it takes a lot of time.
Yeah.
Because you're fumbling around. When you're doing that, it's like putting on a blindfold and trying to hit the piñata.
Yeah.
You're not even under the tree that has the piñata in it when you put the blindfold on. You might be one town away from the piñata and don't even know it. Okay? So let me back up. So you ask the attorney when you're sitting in front of him if he does probate or estate planning, right? Because estate planning is a whole nother thing, because there might be people looking to retire. And estate planning, let me interpret those words for you. Estate planning in my world equals owner financing. They have money, they don't want to be the landlord anymore, and they still want to keep that money coming in, but they don't want the landlord obligations. Bingo! I'll do the landlord obligations. I'll send you money every month for the mortgage. You take the property that's rented or the property that's an investment property, you take the landlord obligations off of that person and you put it on you, and he pays a few extra $100 a month. I mean, he takes a couple $100 less per month just not to have the landlord obligations. Estate planning. Get it?
They own property.
What is estate planning?
They have an estate, which means they have probably more than just their house. They have other things like houses.
And they're probably looking to retire. That's why they're talking to the attorney, because they're later in years and they're looking about winding down and giving their kids and making their funds go more than one generation.
Yeah, I have some property, but my kids aren't interested, so I have to do some estate planning. A lot of times the kids don't want to do it. They saw dad do it, they don't want to do it.
There you go. Okay, so here's what you do. So you ask him, do you do estate planning or probate work? And he says no. This is the point before I move on here. He says no.
Oh.
The first one, he said yes. You ask him for a property, and you start a relationship with him. Second one, he says no, we don't do estate planning. So you say to him, who does your estate planning for you? Oh, so-and-so does it. Okay, could you formally introduce me to that person? And then you make a relationship with that person. Now, you went from your friend or relative or coworker introducing you to this lawyer. Now he says no. Now you have a lawyer introducing you to another lawyer.
That's pretty good, lawyer to lawyer.
Yeah. It's incredible.
It gets real.
It's incredible. And this is not something you do for years. This is like a program that you do over the course of a month. And I suggest you probably go visit at least 10 attorneys, 10 probate attorneys, and you will have enough to work with. Let me ask you this. How many other investors and how many other people are going to be sitting in that attorney's office asking him if he does probate other than you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, can I ask one more detail?
Yes.
Quickly. Yes. Why do you say you want an appointment to see the lawyer? Like, what does your friend want to come see me about? What do you say?
Tell the truth.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, if you do a good job with the attorney you're sitting in front of, and you tell him, I could help that attorney, or I could help you close your probate deals quicker, or be a service to you to help your clients, so you don't have to go out because who's going to do all that work? They put it on the MLS and they get all these offers. Who's doing all that work?
The attorneys have to do that.
Yeah. Now, some attorneys are kind of slim buckets and they like to bill those hours. So that's not your guy. But most of them actually care. They're caring people that want to help their clients. So if you can come along, and oh yeah, by the way, I'm not telling you I'm going to buy the house. I just want to put an offer in so you can use that offer with other deals or in your, you can at least say to your client, hey, I got an offer. Why wouldn't the attorney want to do that?
Yeah.
They take on a case and within a week, they got an offer on the real estate. That makes them look good.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
They are doing good.
Okay.
There's nothing wrong with it.
Well, it's like people helping people. Everybody needs the help. The person selling the house, it's a problem for them. It's a burden that they just gone through something or other and they have a house on their hands. The parents are gone or nursing home or some damn thing, and they need help with it.
Right. So like I said, you only need a few good attorneys. You'll make some relationships. You only need a few good attorneys to make these relationships to. You should follow up with them. We use Text Magic and a couple other, once you get the phone number, you can set up some automated reminders and stuff. Like I just text them and say, hey, got any new property for me to take a look at this week? And just stay in their world so they know you're real.
Follow up.
Okay? All right. Let's do the last scenario for today so we can get out of here, okay?
Okay.
You're actually finding, say, for sale by owner leads somehow. Or you're finding deals, right? Like a lot of my coaching clients are.
Right.
Or my deal hunting monthly mastery guys are. But the seller in this economy is saying they don't want to do monthly payments. They want to sell for all cash now.
Right.
Most untrained real estate entrepreneurs think this isn't a deal and it hits the round file, aka the garbage can. Or they aren't motivated. So they think that they aren't motivated. Remember what I said at the beginning of this podcast. Everybody's motivated, especially if they have a for sale by owner sign out front or an agent. They are motivated to sell the house somehow, some way. But you think because they didn't align with your making a payment program or no money down or your type of strategies that they're not motivated, because I've taught you they're a suspect. They're a suspect for you, but they're not a suspect in life.
Right.
Right?
Yep.
So most untrained real estate entrepreneurs think this isn't a deal or they aren't motivated, but they don't know what they don't know. Let's say someone has a house worth $200,000, and it's worth $200,000, and it's a pretty house, and you were real good at negotiating. Not even real good. You had some negotiating skills, right? And you got the price from 200 down to 180.
Right.
Now, I'm telling you that this is easy to do, and we do this in our coaching program, in my private coaching. I teach you how to go over the cost to sell with a worksheet that we have. It's a cost to sell worksheet that shows the seller that their first 10 or 15% of the deal is for transaction fees. Right?
Yep.
And they're not going to get that money. Most people don't know that they're going to pay 10 to 15% in closing transaction fees. They don't know that.
Yeah.
So if you go over those closing transaction fees with them, it's not hard to get them down, even if it's 10%, which is almost impossible to do, right? Even if you're the most savviest guy, it's still 10%, right?
Yeah, it's hard to sell for just 10% off no matter what you do.
Right.
Yep.
I mean, if you use a realtor, it's 6% just for the realtor. There's 1 to 1.25% just for conveyance tax. And then we didn't have any of the tax adjustments or negotiating or repairs or anything that has to be done to get the loan for the buyer.
Yeah.
Right? None of that is counted into those numbers. Right? So if you just explain that to them correctly, you could easily say, so if you sold this house, this is what the cost to sell worksheet does. If you sell this house for $200,000, you're going to net $180,000. So technically, if I gave you $180,000, I'm paying retail full asking price, aren't I? Because you are.
Yeah.
Now watch this. They say yes. You write an option agreement for that $180,000. Are you with me?
I am.
You go on the market, mostly Facebook and Zillow, and you list that $200,000 house for $185,000. Now you have an option agreement on it.
Yeah.
Which means the seller agrees to if you bring a buyer to the table, they agree to sell to you for $180.
Yep.
You sold for $185. So you can make $5,000 to do this transaction. Don't get greedy. Don't get greedy and try to make the $200,000, because here's what's going to happen. If you don't have a hook or a unique selling proposition to sell it at the same price as the $200,000, because realize that the realtor is selling it for $200,000 because there's the cost to sell in there that he's not telling the seller about. So it's going to absorb all that.
Yeah.
Right? So I won't even go on that rant. They don't even know how much he owes or nothing. They don't even know if they can clear that. And there's many deals that blow up at the closing because the seller's not getting enough money to cover the mortgage.
Right.
Because the realtor, nowadays they might, but in the past they never asked how much they owed. Right? It's that the realtor system is not set up that way. Right? So you get an option agreement for $180. You put it on the market for $185. So that means when you find your buyer, you write a contract for $185,000. Now pay attention to this. You're going to write the contract between you and your buyer. Now you don't own the house, right?
Right.
So when they go do a title search, they're going to find out your name is not on the title.
That's right.
So once you sign the purchase and sales agreement for $185 and get the earnest deposit, you're going to attach your option agreement to the purchase and sales contract and send that off to the closing agent so they know what's going on up front. Does your buyer care? No, they're getting a 15% below or $15,000 below market value. What do they care? They're glad you found this deal for them.
Yep. And your seller should be okay because he's getting the 180 that he agreed to.
Everybody's happy.
And you're happy because you just made $5,000.
Right? Now in today's market,
I was just thinking that.
if you put it on for 185, is it possible to get a bidding war?
No, honestly,
Is it possible that your seller will figure out that you got $210,000 in there at 180? Yes.
Yeah.
So what do? You make another deal with the seller and say, let's split it.
Yeah, anything over such and such. Yeah, this is what I said before. This is not up to the bank. It's not up to the lawyer. It's not up to anybody. We're actually living our own lives with this. So if you get more, and you can make, if I make more, what if you make more? I'll split it with you. Okay.
Yeah.
In today's market, I would take 190, sell for 200, get 220, and split and get more. Today's market, that's how it is. Yeah, just make it up.
And here's the amazing thing about the option agreement. If your seller is a little bit wheezy about it, just tell them, you know what, you have nothing to lose. Sign the option agreement with me and go get your realtor. Just tell your realtor that you have an option agreement with me and they have to take me out of their deal. So if you sell with me, you're not paying a commission.
Yeah.
And let the games begin. See who will bring you a deal quicker. Let me bring you deals. Let the realtor bring you deals. What do you have to lose? You're a rookie. You need to do deals. This is a great way for you to get in the middle of a transaction and learn how it works for no risk. What did it cost you? $10 or $100 for the option agreement? Big deal. Get out there and start practicing how you're going to do this and have a chance of making $3,000, $5,000, $10,000, $25,000.
That's right.
So I don't want to hear from my creative real estate investors that they're not finding deals because no one wants to do payments because everybody's taking over asking price, which, by the way, when you use generalities like that, it right away tells me it's not true because generalities are not specific. Everybody is not having that happen to them. Only a certain amount of people are having that happen to them. And I promise you as well as I sit here, this is an absolute, positive, total fact. Buyers and sellers have no idea what's going on in the market. They're always 4 to 6 months behind on their information, just like the stock market. They're always behind. The common folk, the common knowledge people think they know because they heard it on the news and because everybody's saying it, that that's the way it is. I have news for you. In the stock market, if you're listening to the common folk or the general knowledge, you aren't going to make money.
Yeah, you're too late.
You're too late.
The show already started. We're on the intermission, and you're too late.
And I'm telling you, in the last month, which I'm talking about March and April of 2021, the market has turned. Now, I didn't say that it's a buyer's market yet, but I'm telling you that it's not as hot as it has been months previous to that. Houses, days on the market. All you got to do is go look anywhere on the MLS or ask your realtor to compare days on the market. And that's your statistic to know how hot the market is. Let me give you this real quick before I leave. A hot market means you put a house on the market and within 30 days it sells. Which means it's really hard to buy, really easy to sell. Which is why we're using the option agreement right now, because it's really hard to buy and really easy to sell. So you could take that option agreement and use it quickly because it's easy. It's an easy to sell market.
Yep.
That's a hot market.
Yep.
Known as a seller's market. A cold market, also known as the buyer's market, is when the property is for sale or on the market for more than 90 days. Anywhere from, I say, from 70 to 90 days.
Yeah.
That means it's really easy to buy, really hard to sell, unless you're doing rent to own. Which is why my system of the 7 strategies works so much, because depending on which market is, depends on which strategies you use now. All the 7 deals cover each one of these type of markets.
Yep.
Right? And if you don't know what the 7 strategies are, go to flippinghousesforrookies.com and get into that creative real estate deal making 101 course, and you'll figure it out. Right? My point is that a seller's market means that the sellers call in the shots. The sellers have a lot of choices to make. In other words, they have one house for sale and 20 buyers are looking to buy it. So they just pick which one they like the best.
Yeah, Bill, I had 10 offers in 3 days.
Hang on. A buyer's market is when you have 10 houses and 1 buyer. So the buyer can pick and choose which one they want. So it's the person that has the most choices.
Yeah.
So the seller has the most choices in a seller's market, and the buyers have the most choices in a buyer's market. Right?
Yeah.
The sweet spot, by the way, so a hot market is it sells within 30 days. A cold market is, or a buyer's market is when it sells over 90 days, 70 to 90 days. The sweet spot is in that 45 to 70 day, 45 to 60 day.
Right in the middle.
Range. When houses stay on the market for 45, 40, 45, 60 days, the seller begins to humble and think that their idea isn't going to work because they don't have people lining up at their front door giving them the offers that they think. Yeah. They think their house is the best house in the neighborhood and it's worth $20,000 more than everybody else's sale because they got a garage and they got this and they got that. They start to humble.
Yep.
So that's the sweet spot. So for a very long time, which I just spoke to Sean, one of my guys that works with me, we stopped looking for those for sale by owners. See, what we do when I'm looking for sale by owners is a lot of times we'll just look at over 30 days. So we'll go get people that have houses on the market over 30 days.
Yeah.
And that's a good list because they're motivated. Okay? All right, good. So I'm just going to answer this question for Desiree. She says, quick question, what would you say a real estate entrepreneur is? So a real estate investor, by definition of the word investor, that means you have money and you're looking to get the best rate of return for the use of that money. So investor has the insinuation that you're going to foot up the money, you have the capital, and you're just looking for a return. A real estate entrepreneur means that you have, and by the way, in the transaction, money is not the only thing. It's only one portion of the transaction. Real estate entrepreneur means that you have these available resources. You have a closing agent. You have possibly a list of buyers. You have a contractor. You have the ability to get the money. You have documents. You have all at your fingertips, whether they're yours or somebody else's. You have the ability to reach out to someone and get it done. So the real estate entrepreneur is like he collaborates, or he puts all his resources together to do your transaction. He has all those connections. He has all that. He's been listening to these podcasts. He's been doing some study. He has the concepts of doing an option deal or doing this kind of deal or that kind of deal. And he has the resources, of which I'm one of those resources, because they can send a support ticket and ask some questions, right? So a real estate entrepreneur is a person that you want, that a seller really needs to put a transaction together, which is what makes us most unique, because a realtor isn't even that. A realtor's job is to find people a buyer. They're a marketing agent. They're not a closing agent. People think that they're consultants. I'm going to hire a realtor and they're going to consult me and hold my hand through the transaction. And unless a realtor is doing, multiple deals a month, 40, 50, 60, 100 deals a year, they don't know how to do it. They're not taught that in real estate school.
Yep.
Which is why I think the real estate entrepreneur is much more valuable, because they'll study and understand and have the resources to do that, right? If you want to get a better concept of what I'm talking about, go listen to podcast number 90, way back then, number 90, where I talk about doing business with the real estate mafia. And I explain the whole thing there. Okay? So, we got to get out of here, Peter. How did I do?
That was good.
You have to find the right buyer.
The important thing I got out of it was, with the deals that we have available, different ways we can buy and sell, you just look at the market and what seems to be the most logical thing to do, considering circumstances in the situation we're in. So there's always a way. And people probably know, but most millionaires are made in depressions, in rough times, because they just find something that works that'll help people get out of the hole. Mm-hmm. So it's not like the time to follow the herd and just crumple up in a corner, but find something that will work.
Well, that's a perfect example. Just I know that we're over time here, but why would a for sale by owner sell to you instead of a realtor? Why would they do that? Well, there's a lot of for sale by owners that don't like realtors. They had bad experiences with them, which, by the way, I've sat in thousands of houses and talked to thousands of sellers, and almost every single time, one for one, I hear about a bad story of a realtor or a realtor system.
Yeah.
Because even though their system works, the only thing that's allowed realtors to be as strong as they are in this society is there isn't another solution. It's either the realtor system or for sale by owner.
Yeah.
Those are the only two ways, unless you meet a guy like us.
Yeah.
Which is all the reason why I want to build an association just like the Realtor Association.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yep.
So my point is that they don't know what else to do. They don't know that you can offer all these things to them, right? So they don't want to use a realtor. They don't, or like we just bought a house the other day. They didn't want to wait to sell. They didn't have time. They needed to move on. They had a pressing thing that needed to move on, right? I mean, I just bought a property for $80,000 below market value. I bought the house for $80,000 below market value because the girl ran out of time and needed money like right now. Yeah. She couldn't put it on the market with the realtor. It wouldn't wait. And if she did, it would have been detrimental for her not to have this money for whatever reason. Mm-hmm. Fees and loans, and there were like real issues there. It wasn't foreclosure. There were real issues there. It was other issues. She owned the house free and clear.
Yep.
And she made some bad decisions, and she needed the cash to clean it up, and she had like 4 days, and we closed.
Yeah, you can find a buyer in 3 days, but it still takes 45 to go through all the steps.
Yeah. So there are people out there, if you deal hunt enough, that just don't want to use a realtor and are willing to listen to these ideas.
Yep.
Okay?
Yep.
So,
yep.
So instead of giving the fees to the realtors from their equity, they'll give it to you. Mm-hmm. So if you just do some of the things I'm talking about here, I think you'll find that the multiple ways that I've given you today are very effective and definitely where the crowd is not. So you have a chance of doing some deals. Okay?
Yep.
All right, Peter. So the last thing I want to say is don't forget to go into the description section of this podcast, wherever you heard it, whatever platform you're on. You can click on there. There's over 25 free tools, scripts and forms and videos and all kinds of stuff that you can use to go get some help. Also, we do record every Thursday morning, 9:15, 9:30 Eastern Standard Time. You can send support tickets in at flippinghousesforrookies.com. Support section. While you're there, there's a course there that is how to buy real estate 101. You can sign up for that. That's free, and there's a bunch of videos in there that could teach you how to do all the stuff we're talking about, the slot deals and subject to deals and all these other kind of deals that we didn't talk about today. Also, be aware that we do a meetup once a month. The third Wednesday of the month, we do I do a virtual meetup. That's the third Wednesday of the month. If you're not on my email list, send in a support ticket or send in a support ticket, and I'll get you the link so you can join up for that. The thing with the meetup is it's just about deal structuring. It's not anything else except the math, and I get into all the theory there on how you could do these transactions and mathematically how they make sense and how you talk to some of the sellers. I get more into, instead of telling you what to do like we do here, there I show you how to do it. And it's free. It's the third Wednesday of every month. And if you can't make it live, then we actually have a subscription for $8 or $9 a month, and you can go see all of them throughout the months. Okay? Thank you for listening to us. Thank you for all your support. If you have any questions or comments, or you think this podcast is too long or too short, or any ideas of what we should put on this podcast, please send me a support ticket. I answer all of them. And I've done many podcasts based on a listener's suggestion of what we should do. Okay? With that said, over and out. Go find some deals and be happy.
Thanks for tuning in to the hottest real estate topics on the planet with Bill and Pete. If you want to continue learning how to buy and sell real estate without money or credit, head over to flippinghouses.club for some cutting-edge real estate wealth tools. Or contact us at info@flippinghouses.club.